Al, we've got Zelda on the mind.
I mean, that's just me in
So,
general.
well, yes, but let's talk about some Zelda, but not that Zelda,
Not that Zelda.
because we ain't ready for that yet.
No, we're still going on that one.
Still got a ways to go on that one.
Hmm.
But yes, anyways, hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc Al and Ladium.
Hello.
This is episode 334, and we're going to talk about a Zelda game that I recently played through,
Yep.
and Al played through like 30 years ago.
It was not 30 years ago, but I
Sorry, almost 20 years ago.
that is true. I played it when it came out originally and have played it many times since. Um it's a very loved Zelda game for me.
I hear it's the 10th best Zelda game
The 10th best, is that what I called it?
when we did our list of Zelda games. It was the 10th best Zelda game.
Well, yeah, that tracks.
So there's that.
Although, like,
Yeah,
Tears of the Kingdom is probably gonna mess around with that listing for a bit
that we did that like a while ago.
before that
So,
came out. Yeah.
yes.
But yeah, Minish Cap's so good.
But yes, we're talking about the Minish Cap.
The Minish Cap.
It is the Minish Cap. You know, the sequel to Four Swords and Four Swords Adventure.
Oh my God, how dare you?
This game came out in 2004 in Japan and Europe regions. I don't know why it came out in Europe before it came out in North America. That's a weird thing, but okay. Came out in January 2005 in North America, while in November 2004 for Japan and European regions. Came out in Australia on April 7, 2005. Was on the Wii U Virtual Console on June of 2014, and then came to the Nintendo Switch Online, Game Boy Advance for Nintendo Switch Online on February of 2023, which feels like 7 years ago.
Yep. Did you notice what day it came out in North America?
Oh, your birthday.
My birthday.
Your birthday.
I was gifted by the powers that be the Minish Cap on my birthday.
It's true. It's true.
It's probably actually just my mom, but
I want to say I hate that this first sentence on the Wikipedia when it comes to setting.
oh no.
Within the Zelda chronology, the Minish Cap takes place between Skyward Sword and Four Swords, making it the second story in that timeline.
I've said it before. You've said
It's
it before.
It's stupid.
It's stupid. Stop
No.
paying attention to the timeline. It doesn't matter.
I do like that they call this a prequel to Four Swords, which is very funny.
That is very funny. But also, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I was definitely thinking when playing this, because they introduced that mechanic at some point.
Mhm.
I was like, did this game come before? Was this like the inspiration for Four Swords? But no, apparently Four Swords came before this,
Mhm.
which seems that seems out of place.
I like how they just tried to like shove it in there. They're like, this isn't actually like the Master Sword or anything. So it doesn't really have any plot relevance to anything else, but it'll go right here. It's fine. Like, screw the timeline.
You know, the most timeline canon game, Four Swords, of
Four
course,
swords.
and Four Swords Adventure.
Oh my God.
Everyone knows they are very, prominent to the overarching story of The Legend of Zelda.
Right.
Anyways,
Very important.
let's talk about the development of this game, because this was another game made by Capcom and Flagship. Hey, congratulations to this team. They finally made a good Zelda game.
It's
Wow.
true.
Third time's the charm. Let's go. That's going to make people mad, but oh well.
I mean, you're right, and you should say it.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, like, Capcom really, really nailed it here, and it's not our fault that Oracle games are bad.
To be fair, all they did was basically just remake Link to the Past, which is like, that's an easy layup.
I mean, there might be a reason why I like it so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for this time, they made Zelda and Link friends.
Friends.
They're friends. They're best friends.
All right, let's dive into the development and promotion of this game.
Ooh, and promotion.
After Capcom in his scenario writing subsidiary Flagship had finished developing the Oracle of Seasons and Ages of the Game Boy Color, they began work on a new Zelda game for the Game Boy Advance. Work on the title was suspended to allow the teams to focus on Four Swords.
Yikes.
But in February 2003, Shigeru Miyamoto and Eiji Aonuma revealed the development of what would later be called the Minish Cap was well underway. Nintendo launched a website for the Minish Cap in September 2004 showing concepts of Link's shrinking ability. The game had a cartoonish art style similar to The Wind Waker, as it has a fairy tale setting similar to said game within the world of tiny fairies in a universal fairy tale story. I guess it makes sense, like this would be like after Wind Waker, but like my brain is very dumb and like this does not feel like a game that came out in 2005. It feels more like a game that came out in like 02, 03.
Right. Yeah. So my brain always thinks that it's 02. It's definitely not 02.
No, it's 3 years after.
Yeah.
It's very, very weird.
I wonder why both of our brains think 02.
Is that like just like the GBA launch window?
Maybe.
Either way. An effort was made to make Hyrule Town, the overworld central city hub, feel like a living, breathing city with people going about their ordinary lives. This, combined with Link's ability to shrink in size, allowed for unique angles on the perspective of a safe town, turning the town itself into a dungeon of sorts for the player. Aonuma was reportedly impressed by what the development team was able to achieve with Hyrule Town, particularly given the restrictions of a 2D game, commenting that it even surpasses Clock Town and Majora's Mask.
Ooh, high praise.
The game's Ghost Jar was inspired by a gourd that can suck up anything from the novel Journey to the West. Several other aspects of the gameplay were inspired or directly lifted from Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures, both of which Minish Cap serves as a prequel to. No, shut up. For example, the gameplay concept of shrinking to Minish size in the Minish Cap is a fleshed-out extension of the function of the Gnat Hat from Four Swords, a hat which allowed Link to shrink into the size of a gnat. Obviously, that's
That is why it's called the Gnat Hat.
It's in the name. The game contains a developmental in-joke to the Oracle of Ages and Seasons titles and an optional side quest which sees the player aiding 3 female travelers from distant lands who are looking for a place to stay. These characters are Din, Nehru, and Pharaon from the Oracle titles. The players will be able to... Whatever.
It's fine.
The players will only be able to provide housing for 2 of the 3 gals, and although their landlord makes reference to building a 3rd house for the 3rd woman...
It's because the 3rd Oracle game never got released.
Well, there you go. You just that's the rest of that paragraph, essentially.
Oh, I wasn't reading that.
That's exactly it, though.
Oops. Yeah, what is the description given for her on in-game figure? Also mentions people take advantage of her when it makes her upset. Oops.
I mean, they were right to not make that game. So
no, you're right. You're right. It would have been a 3rd bad Game Boy game.
A first in the Zelda series, the game was released in European territories before North America. The main cited reason for this was the Nintendo DS, with the European DS launch scheduled for spring 2005. Nintendo of Europe pushed to make the Minish Cap its handheld Christmas killer app. Interesting.
Wow.
Conversely, Nintendo of America held back on its release so not to cannibalize the DS market.
Nahone.
So did the DS... Hang on, let's do some further research here. When did the DS come out in North America? November 2004. So they held this off so not to get into the DS launch.
That just feels unreal.
This does not feel like a game that came out after the DS.
No, it doesn't.
What the hell?
I must have played it on the DS though.
I mean, yeah, you could do that, but it's so bizarre.
No, I was just thinking like I don't remember playing it on Game Boy Advance ever.
Yeah.
You know what I also did?
What's that?
This is gonna sound completely bananas. I also had the attachment for the GameCube.
The Game Boy player.
The Game Boy player, so that I could play all my Game Boy Advance games from my GameCube, and that's how I played
on
most
your
of them.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, I can't see for so...
That's also true, and like, you'd have to have the good GBA to be able to actually see. Anyways, hey, did you know the Minish Cap was the best-selling game in its debut week in Japan, selling 97,000 copies?
I am not surprised by that.
It was the 62nd best-selling game of 2004 with 196,477 copies and had a total of 350,000 copies overall in the country. In North America, the Minish Cap sold 217,000 copies in its debut month of January 2005, being the fourth best-selling game of the month. It remained among the 5 best-selling games in February and March, and it closed the year as the 7th best-selling game of 2005.
Wow.
By
God, that still
March
doesn't
2000,
feel right. I was in high school.
yeah.
God.
By March of 2005, the game had already sold 1 million units worldwide, and in the U.S. alone, the Minish Cap sold 680,000 copies and earned $21 million by August of 2006. What other like big games came out in like 2005?
I was just wondering that.
Because this is the 5th best-selling. Is that what I said? 7th
5.
best-selling game.
Yeah.
Oh, I could just do this. What's selling games of 2005? I guess it's just the same thing if I typed it in regularly. My computer's like to be slow. Let's see. During the period between January 2000 and August 2006, that's a long period, it was the 37th highest selling game launched for the GBA, Nintendo DS, or the PlayStation Portable in the United States. It would end up selling 1.76 million copies worldwide. The best-selling video game. This does not have the Minish Cap on here, so that's very weird. But let's just say notable games that came out that were high-selling.
Okay.
Such as Gran Turismo 4, Nintendogs, Resident Evil 4, the DS Animal Crossing game. Oh, this is worldwide. This does not have Minish Cap here for U.S. sales or anything. So yeah, some big games, I guess you would say.
Yeah, they're pretty big.
What about the top 10
Nintendo was killing it that year.
What about the top game rentals in the U.S. though?
Oh.
But yeah, it's a biggin.
Yeah, that was a pretty big deal. Except for, it wasn't a big deal because he was a little tiny guy.
Little guy. He's a little guy.
Little guy.
The game had a 90 or an 89 out of 100 on the Metacritic for all the reviews and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It was ranked as the 20th best GBA game of all time from IGN. It was the 2005 GBA Game of the Year from GameSpot and GameSpy and Nintendo Power. And also they ranked it as the 24th best game on a Nintendo console.
IGN saying it's the 20th best GBA game is wild.
Well, what are the top? What is the other games ahead of it? You might be asking.
Yeah, I am asking. If it's not Golden Sun and the Golden Sun sequel, then they're wrong. But
well, of course, Mario Kart Super Circuit.
Oh my god.
Metroid Fusion.
Okay.
Super Mario Advance 2, Super Mario World, that's just Super Mario World.
It's just Super Mario World, which I mean, like, great game, but
yeah. Fire Emblem. Mario Power Tennis.
Oh my god.
Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. Ultimate Card Games.
No.
Of course, you got to play some poker. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga.
That's a great game.
Super Mario Brothers 3. Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. Metroid Zero Mission. Final Fantasy VI Advance. Yoshi's Island for GBA. Mario Golf for GBA. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Advance Wars. 4 Swords.
No.
But this is A Link to the Past with 4 Swords.
Oh, well then, okay, that counts.
Castlevania Aria of Sorrow and WarioWare Twisted. This is a very weird list.
That is a very weird list. Also, Golden Sun's nowhere on there, and so they're wrong.
It was below it. I did see it in like the 21 to 25 range because it was the 25 best games of the GBA. But anyway, the Minish Cap.
The Minish Cap.
They just made A Link to the Past again.
Sort of.
I mean, structurally, it's basically A Link to the Past. Like, obviously, the gimmick of this is very different because, you got the whole
small
shrinking ability and, like, you can go into, like, miniaturized locations and all that sort of stuff. So like all that sort of stuff is new and everything, and like there's new items and stuff you'll get in dungeons, like the mole claws and the gust
Jar.
doohickey. Yeah, like those are all new and everything. But like you break this down,
I mean, it's basically, you're right.
it's just a Link to the Past again, which like it's fine. Like I don't see that as a complaint because like A Link to the Past is very good. It's a very good game.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like playing this and like getting like going through it and everything. I was like, oh, this is just they just did A Link to the Past again. Which I will say it's different than that second Castlevania GBA game they made, which was just they basically made Symphony of the Night again, which that felt more just like they were just remaking that game and just slapping it on the GBA with like different characters in a different location. This at least has different gimmicks to it, has different items and everything. It allows you to tackle dungeons in different ways than you normally would have in A Link to the Past because like you have a whole different set of abilities and items that you can use that makes it very different. So it's not a one-to-one just remake as like that Castlevania game kind of really felt like. So it's not like, oh, I'm just playing A Link to the Past again, which you could just do that on the GBA. They put it out again on the GBA, so that was just a thing. So like this definitely had a lot of differences for it. So I don't necessarily see that as a negative. It just definitely has the feel of like, oh, I'm just kind of playing another version of A Link to the Past.
Yeah. I do think one thing that's really interesting about Minish Cap is that Ganon is nowhere to be seen. Or Ganondorf, any of his versions. We have Vati as the main villain. Wow, I know. So that was a big difference.
Game's just like, hey, I want to talk about the Minish Cap. I want a hat that makes me turn into small.
I want a hat that makes him turn into small too.
But then you'd lose him because he would fall into a crack and be like, man, help. And you just hear this tiny little like, I can't find you. I don't know where you are.
Where'd you go? As I mentioned earlier, though, I do really like that like Zelda and Link are friends. Like he's got his messy bedhead and she shows up and is like, hey, we gotta hang out. Come hang out. And it's like, holy dude, you're friends with the princess? That's kind of cool.
This is cool, dude.
Yeah, I mean, just he's just chilling. Got his little blacksmith dad, grandpa. Is he a grandpa or a dad? I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
I think
I played this game 7 years ago, as I said earlier.
What?
February was 7 years ago.
Oh, God. I think it's a grandpa.
I mean that tracks in the usual Zelda sense.
Uncle, grandpa, grandma. Yeah. He looks like an old man.
Oh, an old man.
He's a big, tough sword fighting champ, which I guess they do mention like in the figurines, which remind me to talk about the gacha. But they do mention in the figurines that like him and the king are friends and that they used to like sword fight together and stuff. So I guess it makes sense that him and Zelda would get to be friends because of them being friends.
Yeah. I think using the Wind Waker art style, or at least like kind of like
a version of it.
A version of it, yeah, that makes sense. Really works well with like the GBA and everything. Like,
oh yeah,
it makes this game pop more than like the other Game Boy Zelda games. Like, it just has such a different look than those games did.
It's so charming.
Yeah, like it really fits this system in particular. Like, they were really able to like make the most of what they had in terms of system limitations and all that sort of stuff.
I also love how bright it is.
Yeah, it's a really just nice looking game.
It's beautiful. I mean, like, you wouldn't expect a game on the Game Boy Advance to look this pretty, but it really does look quite nice.
They did a good job in that aspect, for sure.
They did.
And I think, like they said in like the development stuff, like they make like Hyrule, it's like the very centralized hub, and like you're able to like go to like all these different locations and like stores and everything. It's very different for like especially like the 2D Zelda games.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, like you have these little towns, but they're not like a hub where like you'll keep coming back and like doing things in them, like doing like little side quests, getting better equipment and everything. Like usually all that stuff is kind of like scattered about, but here they kind of just like, oh, it's it's 2005. Games have we've seen centralized hubs become a thing in video games over the past 20 years. So like, why don't we just do that for this game? And it works really well because like you do get to see these characters kind of like change in after you're coming back and forth from dungeons. You get to see the town change here a little bit. You get to like unlock more parts of the town as you progress through the game. So like it really allows you to see just like in a way just like this living and breathing town that you really wouldn't have gotten in any other 2D Zelda games at the time.
Yeah, it's amazing because as they were saying, like it feels very alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not sitting there trying to like help you on your quest this whole time. They're not relying on you. They're not their lives don't revolve around you at all.
No, they got their own things to do.
They got their own things to do. So like, you know, there's a bit where I mean it takes forever for like the school to open up because they're doing school sessions.
Yeah.
And then when the school's out, they're like, all right, now you can come in. But like they're just living their lives, man. Princess of Stone? Oops. I still gotta go to school. Which, like, I mean, that's kind of how it would probably be in real life. You'd just be like, well, that sucks. I gotta keep living though.
Yeah.
But I really like the town, and it's got a bunch of like fun characters in it, and it's got some returning characters. Like we've got a version of Anju, the cuckoo lady. We've got little beetle. We've got the mailman. So you got some returning folks just chilling in the town.
Mm-hmm.
You've also got like the Legolas looking that show up everywhere that teach you sword tricks.
Yeah, the sword trainers.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
I love those guys. They're very weird.
Yep. And like you find one in Hyrule Town, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. There's a sword trainer here. And then like you'll find the others just out in just very random locations. It's like, what are you guys doing down here?
And they're always like, I am the best one.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you all said that, so who's actually best? And then like even the dead guy's like, I'm the best. And it's like, bro, you're dead. You're not even alive.
How can you the best?
How can you be the best? You're dead.
It's real goofy. But yeah, like we mentioned earlier, like one of the big gimmicks of this is that you get the four sword, and like it's obviously based off of the idea of what Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures did, and like multiple links, doing their thing. But obviously this is this isn't a multiplayer game, so like you're not going around controlling four different links. Like they have these little like puzzles essentially that change over time throughout the game, where like every dungeon you'll be able to enhance the sword, and you'll be able to like gain a copy of yourself with these puzzles essentially, to where like at the end you can make four copies, and like usually it revolves around you having to like hit something or maneuver all your copies in a way to get to whatever you have to like do with this puzzle or anything. So I thought it was an interesting gimmick, like, and it was pretty well implemented, especially from its origins of Four Swords and everything, which was a multiplayer game. But I think they were able to kind of like take that idea and weave it into this single player game in such a way that even though it is gimmicky in a way, like they made it work surprisingly well.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was pretty surprising, considering I wasn't exactly sure how it was going to work, or if it was like actually be something that would be kind of memorable in this game. But it actually turned out to be something that is one of the things you kind of remember out of this game. Is like, oh yeah, you could do these little copies and do these little funky puzzles that aren't really in any other Zelda game,
right?
Because Four Swords doesn't exist.
No, and this is definitely not the prequel to it.
Definitely not.
Yeah, this game does a lot of really interesting things mechanically. As you mentioned, there are the two new items that were fun. You got the mole mitts, and then you have the gust jar, and those are not really something that we had I don't think we got anything Mold Mitt-y again until Skyward Sword.
Well, of course, because this game takes place between those two games, so that makes the most sense, obviously.
And then the guest star, yeah, I don't think we really had anything like that.
No.
But it's an interesting mechanic to have like these new little thingies you can play with, and yeah, this game does a lot of things that are interesting. Like the kinstones is another
Hmm.
thing that's kind of fun. Although it can be really frustrating because I always run out of this one particular kinstone
Yeah,
style.
I think it's an interesting idea. I don't know if it's necessarily well implemented.
I wish there was a way to track who has a kinstone and like what shape that they need.
Yeah, like I feel like that would have been something they could have done if this was not a GBA game.
Yeah. I mean, like obviously they're somewhat limited, but that would have been nice to be like, oh yes, I talked to this person. They want this green one with the three prongs. I can come back and eventually give them that.
Instead of just having to be like,
Remember?
okay, what did you want? I gotta talk to everyone and see if if I have the thing they need.
Just like awkwardly stand next to him and see if the bubble shows up over their head.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to fuse with me? Okay, you don't want to fuse. All right, I gotta go.
I'll move on. All right, you, you.
And then you also have to make sure that like you turn into a little Minish guy and see if they want to fuse too.
Yeah, like basically everyone essentially gets kind of like gets this mechanic, and then there's like I feel like there's some that like are like repeatable,
Yes. Or
and
at
then
least they
there's
have multiples.
yeah, and then there's some that are just kind of like a one and done,
Hmm.
which give you I feel like those are the ones that give you like something like more significant
Like heart
usually.
pieces or
Yeah,
like the Tingle brothers and their it's a boomerang that they give you. Can you hear
give you a
this?
boomer. I
You
heard
don't
of
hear this, do
something.
you?
I heard something.
Okay. The cats are fighting.
That tracks. It do be like that sometimes. Uh, also, like you mentioned earlier, this game has gotcha, which I thought I was very surprised by.
Man, the gotcha is the only reason I did not 100% at this time.
There's so many like little like figurines you have to get. Like
Hmm.
there's a ton in this game. And I was just like, that's a lot. I don't know if I want to sit here and do this for and like spend all my currency. So I eventually it's like I got a little bit, and then I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, because it takes the mysterious shells to run the
Hmm.
gotcha machine, but like I eventually ran out of those, and then you can do the infinite money trick, but that still takes a long time.
And
And
like each pull you do lowers the percentage, or like
mhm.
lowers the percentage of how many you need that like will get you high odds essentially. So you're just dumping shells.
Yep, yep, you sure are. And
You gotta
it's
you gotta start whaling.
how am I supposed to whale in Minish Cap?
Just put in $20 into your GBA, and then it'll turn into shells for you.
No.
I think that would be a great idea. Obviously, they took this idea and then when Xenoblade 2 came out, they're like, "Hey, this seems like a good idea."
You know it's not a good idea?
What's that?
Gotcha.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The only time the gotcha is acceptable, well, I was gonna say like I play gotcha games as it is, but that's a whole different thing. But like it's fine in like Tears of the Kingdom because I can.
That's funny.
It's funny, right? Like this one's just like egregious.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's the only reason I did not 100% this game this time around is because I didn't have the patience to sit there and do the infinite money trick and get the shells and all that nonsense.
Nah.
Oh, I forgot to mention that Malin and Talon are in here too.
Mm-hmm.
So more returning characters.
Yeah, they certainly give you like some fan service from previous games for sure. Like obviously they mentioned the stuff from the Ocarina games, but
Hmm.
like or the Oracle games, excuse me, but like you know other stuff from other Zelda games are scattered throughout here as well. So it's not just like oh we would put some Oracle stuff in here.
Um, I also really, really, really like Eslo, your
Yeah,
hat.
he was a fun character.
He's fun. He's just a little grouchy guy
Yep.
sitting on your head.
Just trying to make Link do what he wants, and Link's just like, I'm a gremlin.
Ah, I think the funniest thing with him is that when you go to sleep as Link, he takes the hat off and they just sleep next to each other.
Uh huh.
I was like, oh, that's cute.
It's pretty good.
It's really good. Yeah, he's been cursed by
Into a
Vati
hat.
into a hat. He's a little hat.
Little hat. Now he's on your head.
Yeah, now Link has his green hat.
Yeah, that's how that happens. That's how
Yep.
that works.
Yep. As I mentioned, Zelda turns Zelda Stone.
Mm-hmm. She's stoned.
Zelda Stone the whole time.
It's like,
Um,
whoa.
whoa. Uh, the king gets taken over and is a grumpy man. Oh, Dompe is here, the gravekeeper guy. You get to hang out with some ghosts, talk to
Spooky
some
ghosts.
ghosts. Um, there's a corrupt mayor. It's a man who falls asleep and shoes are magically made.
Yeah, that's how that works.
I mean, he only does the finishing touches, but um, so yeah, there's just like a lot of fun stuff in this game. Like it's really charming.
Mm-hmm.
Although I talk a lot about this game. I want to hear more what you think about this game.
No, I enjoyed my time with it. Like I thought, like you said, it's very charming. I thought the story was pretty fun. Like it's not offensive or anything in terms of
Not
like being.
offensive.
Well, I mean, like in terms of like if it's like bad or something like that. Like it's obviously more story than most of the 2D Zeldas at that point really had.
Yes.
But I think they did the most of it and they did a good job with it. I thought the dungeons were fun. Even though like they are kind of just like your prototypical Zelda dungeons for 2D
Hmm.
games and like kind of exactly what you expect. But I thought the puzzles in them were fun, and they do some interesting things in those as well. But yeah, like I think it's probably the best Game Boy related Zelda game.
Easily.
Yeah.
Um, something I wanted to ask you.
Uh huh.
Um, there are two bosses in particular, actually three bosses in particular that I think are interesting for different reasons in this. One is the like statue guy with the hands, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
like turn Minish and go inside of him.
Yeah.
I love that boss. I think it's such a cool boss.
Yeah.
It's like Bongo Bongo on steroids.
It's a very good use of the overall gimmick of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I am terribad at the like Sky Manta Ray boss fight, where you have to fight like the two manta rays at the same time and they like keep crossing each other and trying to knock you off, and you have to turn
Right.
yourself into multiple links to hit the eyeballs.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at that fight.
I probably used a lot of rewind in that fight.
Oh, I forgot you could rewind.
Yeah, that's a good thing for the Switch GBA games
I didn't
and
do
all
it.
those Switch Online emulated games.
The only time I tried to do a rewind was to see if I could like mess with the gotcha, and it didn't work.
It's like, no, this is set in stone.
And it is apparently set in stone. As soon as you talk to him, it's set. But I couldn't reset it anyway, even if I went to before I talked to him. I don't know how it goes, but they're like, no, you can't rewind this. I'm like, oh, okay, then I guess. Thanks. Um, and then the other one is Vati himself.
Mhm.
That's a pretty wild boss fight. It has the same kind of thing of like you have to duplicate yourself to like hit the eyeball-y type things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but man, that's a pretty tough fight too. Not as hard as the Manta Ray ones for me, but that one was a tough fight. But I think that that's something that they do really well in this game is like they use the mechanics for the boss fights too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like, yeah, you might use the dungeon item. You probably should use the dungeon item. Um, but you're not just using that. You're also using how the game actually plays to fight, which is neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a smart thing to. It really kind of puts like it makes the dungeons all have like their own like. They feel very complete in that aspect because like it's not just you like you said use the item and then you're scot free. It's like you have to kind of use everything to
Yeah,
your advantage.
it's rad. I'm trying to think if there was something else I like wanted to bring up. I'm still mad about the gotcha. What was I going to mention? I still think it's strange that like they're trying to connect this game to the greater timeline when the sword is out obviously a very different sword than the sword that we deal with for the rest of the game
Well,
series.
that's because they try and fit all these games into this dumb. I mean, God, we've hashed this argument
We're
30 times at this point, but it's
gonna
still.
keep having it every time we talk about a Zelda game.
It's just dumb. That's the long and the short of it. It's dumb.
Square peg
No
round
one should
hole.
take it seriously. Just don't bother with it. Just play the
Um,
games and have fun.
yes. I am really happy that you actually like this game though.
Mm-hmm.
One of my biggest concerns going into knowing you were playing this was that you were gonna hate it and I was gonna be really sad.
I hate this game. Arr.
I was worried. I was worried because like I love this game, and so I was like, oh no, what if Jared hates it? And then what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do if Jared hates it?
Cry.
Probably, honestly.
It do be hell like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's. Hey, the Minish Cap is good.
It's good. It's good. It's a lot of fun. Super charming.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of weirdos.
Yep.
Link's once again a gremlin.
It's always a good thing.
Yeah, I like the games where Link is kind of gremlin-y.
But yeah, that's Minish Cap for you.
Mhm.
It sure was a video game that came out in 2005 and not 2002.
I can't. Time isn't real.
It is a video game that came out after the Nintendo DS was released.
I can't. I cannot deal with that.
It's very fake.
Yes, that's super
Do
fake.
not understand.
Nope.
Anyways, that's going to do it for us this week. So if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool is where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Jared and Al Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you like more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. You can find us on... I don't remember what I just said. Either way, buy our books on Amazon. One Shiny Moment of Critical Analysis of Level Log Sunshine and Hot Tubs and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. Like I said, any sports on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza. Get access to unedited versions of the podcast early and a whole wealth of bonus content as well.
Did you say we're on TikTok?
I don't remember.
Did I make that up?
I mean, I've said that a lot over the past 6 to year of us doing podcasts.
I didn't realize we were on TikTok.
Well, I haven't used it in like 6 months, so.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then. Minish Cap's a good
next,
game.
Yeah, next week, something. I don't know. Depends on if Al beats Zelda or not. And if I beat Zelda or
I'll
not.
say we have to both beat Zelda.
But I have more time than you to beat it than you have time to beat it.
No, you're right. You're right.
But you also have done more main story things than I have, so.
We'll see.
We will see. Either way, we'll figure out something.
Yeah.